Panasonic, the heart of your system.
I'm Leo Walder for Kit Guru here with Alphacool at CES in Las Vegas. We've got a range of products to look at, including here, to start with, a product that's actually launched today. This product has been teased. I've got Dave Alcock from Alphacool stood beside me. He's going to be my sort of backup person to remember things like model codes, products and such like. Say hello, Dave.
Hello, Dave. Hi, Kit Guru. How are you? You good?
And going back over here, we have the Eisbaer Extreme, which has been released. I think I've seen this at 2, if not 3 shows. It's an absolute monster cooler. Although it's nominally a 280mm cooler, it actually measures 385 in overall length. You've got the pump, you've got the unions, and it's a really thick, big housing around the radiator core. So this is, without a shadow of a doubt, going to be problematic in many PC installations. There's a lot of hardware to accommodate. However, Alphacool tells us they're going to be working on smaller versions. The snag, of course, is smaller is less extreme, and this is, without a shadow of a doubt, extreme. It's in the name. Next to that, we have some CPU blocks. These were primarily intended for one-use servers. They're interesting fellas, however, partly because they are also appropriate to the desktop. They use the groove that we see on other Alphacool blocks, so you can use their mounting system. And this is an absolute must if you've got a Threadripper, quite frankly. But the other really interesting thing about it is a huge variety of inputs and outputs. You can get any in and any out will work. So here we have an example where the in and the out are on the end, but there are all manner of permutations. But quite clearly the thought of having the block horizontal, an in at one end and an out wherever the heck, that is a really good idea. We like that. So even though it's primarily for servers and one-use servers at that, for the desktop, yeah, we like that. This is just an example of how you can install that block. So you've got 2 flexi hoses, you've got a little pump there with a tiny little reservoir, and then you've got a tiny little radiator. Clearly, as a loop, that wouldn't make a massive amount of sense, but to show you how things might work, yes, indeedy. Here we have a variety of pump reservoirs that use the DCLT. Great, DCLT pump. Now, clearly, the actual reservoir part is just minimal. I mean, it's just enough to allow for a type of evaporation and basically the coolant that vanishes through hoses over a period of time, just to keep the pump moist. But the ITX world is gagging for products like this, without a shadow of a doubt. So what we essentially have here is 3 of the same. So that's the bare unit with the unions on the end, but we've also got unions all around to give you options. And then we go here and we have one where they've pulled the bottom off just basically to show you the innards, so not the pretty version, and one mounted on a bracket. The obvious thought there being is that the bracket does not actually match up to a 120mm fan, but then in ITX you're looking for a unit that will go in any space that's available, and as has been suggested, you take that with the base plate and push comes to shove, you stick the blooming thing to your case, double-sided tape or whatever, but interesting, subtle variants on a theme, but they're all the same theme. Moving along, we've got a revised Nexus ST3280mm radiator. It's this end that's changed. The dimensions are not different. It's just basically more compact in terms of attaching the unions and the way the tanks work. Neat, tidy, but if you've already got an ST3280 and it works for you, then no need to change. If you've got problems at the moment installing a radiator and making the fittings go where you want them to go, that might be the answer. A similar theme here with graphics blocks. Again, the unions have been revised, and then here you'll note in the full RGB-ness, it's actually extended to the unions. Very pretty, like that quite a lot. Don't much like the cabling. Going to put my hand over the cabling because that's just ugh. But the RGB there, that's good. Here we have a back plate for the RGB block. That's obviously an acetal version of. So again, the Germans, they do like their acetal. We like perspex, we like acrylic. This, absolutely bonkers. the Alphacool Iceball. Now this fella has had a bit of a rough ride, so this sort of sealing band that covers the moulding between the two halves has been knocked around a little bit, so it's not quite as mint as it might be, but it is a pump reservoir unit with RGB. It just is, and that's due to go on sale Q1, so we'll be seeing that in the very near future. Dave, do we have a price or even a guess?
We have not at the moment. No, it's going to be a close guarded secret until it's released, but yeah, it will be coming soon.
Okay, so no help whatsoever. So Q1 at some price that's unspecified. However, he tried. Moving along. Okay, so these are just more of the mini ITX pumps we've seen down there. This is simply so when people pick them up and walk around for meetings and such like, it's just there's always one on show. I have noticed that there are subtle differences. So, for example, that's got two unions at the end, but no union at this end. Some of the others have one at each end and such like. There are versions of this pump res around, different versions. This is a build showing off Alphacool's hardware, Helix, Res. Basically, you can see what you're getting there. I do note that the Corsair RGB is out of sync with all the other RGB, which just causes me some mild amusement. However, that's looking very neat and tidy. This PC build is by Performance PC. They're in Miami, Florida. We are, of course, in Las Vegas, so relatively speaking, they're down the road by about 3,000 miles. And then we're going to move over there. Not much to say here, selection of radiators, but you will note that many of them are actually thicker than they are small, as it were. These are generally for servers. These are not the sort of thing that I personally would ever use in a build myself, because they're just not what I'm looking for. However, these are quite significant for overclockers who want a radiator with the minimal footprint but the maximum of cooling capacity. So they can really dump some heat into the coolant and the system will take it. So extraordinary radiators, but we know that there are radiators in the market that go up to 80, maybe even 90 mil in thickness. Again, not my cup of tea. I find anything over 60 mil, frankly, is a real struggle. 45 is often the limit for me. ST30, that pretty much does me every day of the week. Nonetheless, it's interesting to see what's out there. And to wrap up around this side of the room, we've basically got products we've already seen. So more the radiators, the Eisbaer Extreme. This, however, is interesting because this is sort of the guts of the Eisbaer Extreme, which is looking to be sold as a standalone product, so without the block and the hoses. Those quick break unions, you can see them better here. Quick break unions, packaging them is an absolute blooming nightmare, and this is, I think, Alphacool's second attempt at them, possibly a third. They're definitely looking much neater and more compact than before. In the past, you had these things sat inside your windowed PC case, and it was not a pretty sight. That is now both effective and, frankly, less offensive to the eye, and a pleasure to see. I'll be interested to see what modders make of that. I'm not quite sure what you would do with that, because it's huge. However, it does a particular job, and the fact it's available, I like that. Moving around there, here we have one of those little radiators we saw previously with two of these pump reses and that one new block once again. There again the snowball, and that fella, well, it's just a thick small radiator, isn't it? To wrap up, a Mod My Mods PC. Every time we go to Alphacool, there's a different Mod My Mod PC. They're looking good. It's an awful lot of hardware in there. And by their standards, that's a lot of RGB going on, very neat and tidy. They don't generally do RGB to that level. They seem to resist. This time they've given in to the RGB devil, and I like it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, give it a thumbs down. If you want more from Kit Guru, click to subscribe. Here we are at Alphacool at CES.